Welcome back to Mission of the Chosen. Tonight we unveil why your battles are easing, how divine rest begins, and how to receive what's promised: peace, provision, and purposeful prosperity today. You've carried a lot, some of it visible, most of it quiet. Bills don't pause, expectations don't soften, and sometimes even prayers feel like they evaporate into the ceiling. Yet you're still here. That matters. Not everyone who enters the storm walks back out changed and clear-eyed. You did. That tells me the season ahead is not random relief. It's a designed transition from striving into supported momentum. Before we dive in, do 3 simple things to align with this moment and help this message reach others who need it. Tap like, subscribe to stay in step with this journey, and type 777 inches the comments as your agreement that the chapter of struggle is closing. That's it, we won't keep circling this. We'll return to it briefly at the end and move on. Let's name what's shifting. For a long time, you've survived by vigilance, checking every lock twice, rehearsing worst-case outcomes, bracing for the next shoe to drop. Survival trained your nervous system to scan for danger more than it looks for doors. The divine invitation now is not laziness, it's retraining, moving from constant self-rescue into trust-led action. Think of it as changing your operating system from prove and push to listen and move. Scripture puts language to this pivot. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Rest isn't idleness, it's confidence that you are carried while you continue. Noah didn't argue with the wind. He built what would carry him through it. You've been building too, through integrity when nobody was watching, through the call you kept answering, even when it felt thankless, through the habit of showing up. That obedience becomes your arc. You don't have to outmuscle the rain when you've prepared a vessel. Receive everything is not a hollow phrase, it's a posture. Open hands plus aligned steps. It looks like this. You stop negotiating with old fears, you bless closed doors, you say yes to right-sized opportunities, and you let peace, not panic, be the umpire of your decisions. The promise isn't merely financial, though provision is part of it. It's full-spectrum prosperity, steadier emotions, clearer purpose, restored confidence, reconciled relationships where possible, and the quiet knowing that you're not going backwards. Joseph's arc is familiar, but look again at the hinge, timing. He didn't force access, he stewarded what was in his hand faithfully, humbly, until timing lifted him. That's the cadence for you now. Don't sprint to compensate for yesterday, walk at the speed of clarity. Doors that require you to abandon your peace aren't yours. Doors that ask you to bring your whole character, those are. Let's talk about the money part plainly. Scarcity taught you to hoard energy, creativity, and even joy. Abundance flips that script. You budget with vision, not fear. You tithe or give as conviction leads. You create value in your niche without apology. You price your work with dignity instead of discounting your worth to buy acceptance. Financial peace is not a number in an account. It's a clean conscience about how you earn, spend, save, give, and rest. From that posture, yes, opportunities multiply, and so does margin. Doubts will still try to gatekeep this new season. They'll say, "It's too late, you missed it, others got there first." Truth answers, if God is for you, who can be against you? Comparison drains the exact fuel you need. Trade it for curiosity. What's the next faithful step? Who do I serve best? What problem do I solve with care and craftsmanship? Ask those questions, and momentum follows. Light isn't loud, it's consistent. Let your light shine before others, not to perform but to reveal the source. When your life is anchored in peace, people will notice. The patience that doesn't fray, the kindness that doesn't calculate, the excellence that doesn't need a spotlight. That's influence, quiet, durable, and difficult to counterfeit. You may be tempted to treat rest like a reward you earn at the very end. Flip it. Rest is fuel at the beginning. From rest you strategize. From rest you create. From rest you take the meeting and send the pitch. It's not do more to be worthy. It's move from worth already given. That shift lowers the noise inside, and with less noise, guidance becomes audible. Maybe your heart is still negotiating with yesterday mistakes, detours, lost time. Forget the former things. I am doing a new thing. New doesn't erase, it redeems. The skills you learned while surviving, You'll use them now to steward growth. The empathy you gained while hurting, you'll spend it generously to heal rooms you enter. Nothing is wasted if you'll let grace repurpose it. You're not called to hustle your way into burnout or hide behind false humility. You're called to walk in a measured confidence that honors both God and your assignment. Practically, that might look like setting work hours and keeping them, answering fewer DMs but with more intention, saying no without writing an essay about it, choosing the one priority that moves the mission this week instead of juggling 7. Excellence is simpler than perfection. It's just consistent honesty expressed through your craft. A word about community. Isolation kept you safe for a season, but it also kept you small. You don't need a crowd, you need alignment. 2 or 3 who pray like it matters, think long-term, and aren't threatened by your growth. Walk with those people. Your peace will last longer, and your progress will compound. Now, generosity. True abundance always spills. You won't measure prosperity only by what you accumulate, but by the good your life quietly multiplies. An introduction sent, a bill covered, a skill taught, a door held open without posting a thread about it. You will abound in every good work is not theory. It's muscle memory. You build one small, faithful act at a time. If the enemy's favorite lever is fear, the antidote is gratitude. Gratitude doesn't ignore problems. It right-sizes them. Try this. Each night, write 3 lines. 1 provision you saw, 1 lesson you learned, 1 person you can bless tomorrow. Do that for a week and watch how quickly the mind shifts from scarcity scans to opportunity scans. Where attention goes, pathways grow. Here's the reframe to carry into your next decisions. You're not chasing, you're choosing. You're not begging, you're building. You're not proving, you're partnering with purpose, with peace, with the timing that keeps you from burnout and positions you for breakthrough. The storm didn't make you small, it made you precise. We'll keep the ask as promised. If this spoke to you, tap like, hit subscribe, and drop 777 below as your simple yes to the new chapter. Then breathe. The pressure you've lived under is not your permanent address. Take this as your sign, exhale, lift your head, and step forward. The door is already unlocked. Turn the handle. Let's begin with something you've probably felt. Exhaustion that isn't physical. Your body sleeps, but your soul wakes up tired. That heaviness isn't laziness. It's the residue of long seasons of carrying things that were never meant to be permanent. Emotional debts, family expectations, financial weights, broken promises, all of it adds up until even joy feels like work. Yet the very fact that you still rise, still show up, is proof that resilience has become your second nature. God doesn't overlook that. In fact, the fatigue you feel is evidence that a shift is near. You don't collapse at the finish line, you feel drained because you're close to it. Psalm 46:1 reminds us, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Refuge doesn't erase trouble, it sustains you through it until breakthrough arrives. Think about the traveler metaphor again, but from a different angle. Imagine you've been climbing a mountain for years, lungs burning, legs trembling. Halfway up, you think, maybe I should turn back. But here's the secret, what wears you down most isn't the climb, it's the doubt about whether the summit is worth it. The moment you glimpse the horizon, strength returns. God is giving you that glimpse now, a preview of peace, a promise of provision, a confirmation that the climb wasn't wasted. It's not only about surviving difficulties, it's about discovering your niche in the story. Everyone has one, the specific way their life lights up the world. For some, it's creativity. For others, it's nurturing. For you, it may be leadership, teaching, building, healing, or inventing. Your niche isn't always glamorous, but it's always sacred. The struggle sharpened it, the mistakes clarified it, and now the blessings will amplify it. Let's be honest, sometimes the hardest part of walking by faith isn't the waiting, it's watching others get what you've prayed for. It's scrolling and seeing someone step into their breakthrough while you're still patching holes in your boat. But remember Joseph again, others were dining in comfort while he sat in a cell. Yet when his release came, the years compressed, and his promotion was undeniable. God doesn't recycle blessings. What's coming is tailored for you, timed for you, preserved for you. Here's where peace enters the conversation. Peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the ability to remain whole inside them. In John 14:27, Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives." The world's peace is conditional, good health, stable income, no drama. God's peace is deeper. It lets you breathe even while bills wait, even when diagnosis scares, even while people misunderstand. That peace is what you're receiving now. And with peace comes clarity. You stop rushing into every opportunity and learn to discern. Not every yes is good. Some doors are distractions disguised as favor. Divine clarity lets you pause and ask, does this add to my purpose or steal from my peace? Does this multiply my influence or drain my energy? The right doors won't require you to fracture yourself. Let me paint this practically. Say you've been anxious about finances. You keep thinking, if I just hustle harder, maybe it'll change. But God's math isn't hustle, it's harvest. When you sow consistency, skills honed, seeds planted, faith practiced, harvest comes not because you sweat more, but because seasons turn. Your harvest season is not a gamble. It's a guarantee when the seed has been planted faithfully. Galatians 6-9 declares, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Now, let's touch on something personal: forgiveness. Maybe part of your heaviness is carrying bitterness like a backpack full of stones. You don't realize how much it slows you until you set it down. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing wrongs. It means refusing to let them dictate your peace. Your abundance cannot flow through clogged pipes. Clearing bitterness is how the water of blessing runs freely. This is why your words matter. When life tempts you to curse your situation, speak blessing instead. Words are seeds too. Proverbs 18:21 says, "The tongue has the power of life and death. If you speak despair, despair grows. If you speak hope, hope grows." This isn't pretending, it's planting. Your calling isn't just about receiving abundance. It's about redistributing it. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians 9:10, "Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness." Notice that God supplies seed, not just bread. Bread feeds you today, but seed feeds generations. What he gives you now is meant to multiply, not just sustain. And here's the beauty: you're not doing this alone. Even if people left, even if support collapsed, God has assigned help for you. Some of it you'll recognize: friends, mentors, opportunities. Some of it you'll never see: doors opened quietly, dangers blocked without your awareness. Heaven has always been conspiring for your good. So where do you go from here? Stop treating blessings like they're fragile glass. They're meant to be lived in. When opportunities come, walk confidently. When rest calls, don't apologize for it. When favor flows, don't sabotage it with guilt. You've been conditioned to expect delay. Now condition yourself to expect abundance. Let this sink in. Your breakthrough doesn't begin when circumstances improve. It begins the moment you shift from maybe to yes. Faith isn't waiting for confirmation, it is confirmation. Faith says, "It's already mine. I'll walk as if it is so." So if you're waiting for a sign here at Island, don't overcomplicate it. Don't keep delaying it. Say yes. Receive. Walk. Exhale the heaviness. Inhale the promise. Your next chapter is not survival, it's significance. Some battles don't show up on the outside. You can dress well, smile, and keep conversations light, yet inside it feels like carrying 1,000 unspoken weights. That's the quiet war many of us fight. And sometimes it's the silence itself that hurts most, the feeling that no one sees the heaviness you drag through each day. But here's the truth: even when the world misses it, God never does. Psalm 121 says, "He who watches over you will not slumber. You're not invisible, you're not forgotten." Every sigh, every late-night tear, every whispered prayer, he caught them. Not one was wasted. Often, the struggle isn't only about what happened to you, but about what you told yourself afterward. I'm not enough. Maybe I deserved it. I'll never recover. Those are lies that become heavy chains, yet even chains can break. Isaiah 10:27 declares, "The yoke will be destroyed because of the anointing." The burdens you thought permanent are temporary when God decides your season has shifted. Let's pause and think of Joseph again. Betrayed, enslaved, forgotten in prison, his story reads like a list of disappointments stacked one after another. Yet hidden in each trial was preparation. The prison taught him management. The betrayal taught him discernment. By the time he stood before Pharaoh, he wasn't just lucky, he was ready. And so are you. Sometimes the evidence that you're close to breakthrough is the increase of resistance. Have you noticed how right when you start moving forward, something unexpected tries to knock you back? That's not coincidence, it's confirmation. The enemy doesn't waste energy where there's no potential. Opposition rises where destiny is near. Instead of asking, "Why me?" begin to ask, "Why now?" Because the timing reveals the truth. You're on the edge of something sacred. And in this edge season, peace becomes your weapon. Not frantic striving, not endless explanations to people who won't understand, but calm trust. Peace frustrates your enemy more than shouting ever could. It tells the world, "I know who holds my future." This is where your niche comes back into focus. It's not only a career path, it's the intersection of your gifts, your scars, and God's timing. You may have thought your mistakes disqualified you, but they actually clarified you. What you survived becomes what you serve. The rooms you once felt unworthy to enter are the very places your story will carry authority. Practical example, maybe you struggled financially for years. Now, when you speak about budgeting or integrity in money, it lands with weight because you've lived it. Maybe you fought loneliness and learned how to build authentic connection. Now, when you invite someone in, it heals. Your pain was never wasted, it became part of your portfolio. Let's bring this down to daily living. How do you walk in this shift? 3 simple rhythms. Protect your atmosphere. If voices around you drain instead of lift, limit their access. Peace is too precious to rent out cheaply. Stay consistent in the small. Destiny doesn't always shout, it whispers. One faithful act repeated daily outpaces 100 bursts of ambition. Keep gratitude in sight. When the enemy pushes scarcity, gratitude answers with evidence of abundance already present. Remember the traveler in the desert from earlier? Imagine now he finally reaches a spring. The first sip isn't just water, it's proof he wasn't abandoned. That's what small wins are in your life, previews of bigger fulfillment. Celebrate them. Don't despise them. They are God's breadcrumbs leading you to the feast. And here's the paradox. Abundance is not only about receiving more, it's also about needing less. When peace satisfies, possessions lose their grip. When clarity guides you, comparison loses its sting. That's true wealth. Romans 8:37 reminds us, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." More than conquerors not because we avoided battle, but because battle couldn't break us. That's your testimony. You may feel ordinary, but the evidence of God in your story makes you extraordinary. Light isn't chosen because it tries harder than darkness. Light simply shows up, and darkness cannot remain. The same is true for you. So walk lighter today. The chains are breaking, the weight is lifting, the path is clearing. Your life is proof that storms don't last forever. Think about how many times you've started over. New jobs, new friendships, new plans. Each time you carried a quiet hope. Maybe this time things will finally settle. But often, the reset didn't last, and you found yourself back at the beginning, asking, why does the cycle keep repeating? Cycles aren't accidents, they're signals. They tell us where healing hasn't yet reached. And the good news? God doesn't leave cycles unbroken. Galatians 5:1 reminds us, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery." Freedom doesn't mean you'll never face struggle again. It means the pattern loses its hold. The same traps that caught you before no longer have the same power. What once felt like quicksand becomes only a puddle you can step across. But here's what most people miss. Breaking cycles often feels uncomfortable. Why? Because your system is used to the familiar, even if the familiar was painful. Growth means resisting the urge to run back to what feels normal but isn't good. That's why old habits and relationships sometimes resurface just when you're trying to move forward. It's the test before the transition. Think of Israel leaving Egypt. Freedom was promised, but when the desert got hard, they said, "Let's go back to Egypt." Not because slavery was better, but because it was familiar. The unknown takes courage, but courage always precedes breakthrough. This is where faith enters, not as a religious word, but as a practical rhythm. Faith means trusting what you can't yet see and acting as though it's already true. Hebrews 11:1 defines it clearly. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Every small step you take in faith is a declaration that the cycle has lost its power. Now let's talk about identity. So many of your struggles trace back to forgetting who you are. You've been defined by mistakes, by what people said, by your bank balance, by the family you came from. But your true identity doesn't shift with circumstances. You are not a collection of failures. You are not just a survivor of pain. You are God's workmanship, created with intention. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." That means your purpose was written before your pain ever appeared. The storms didn't cancel your calling. They prepared you to carry it with weight and wisdom. Let's apply this to daily life. Maybe your niche is in business, teaching, art, or ministry. The world tells you to chase fame or quick money, but your calling is about impact. When you align your gifts with service, opportunities multiply naturally. When your work heals instead of just hustles, people are drawn to it. That's where true success flows from purpose, not pressure. So, how do you stay steady in identity? 3 practices help. Affirm truth daily. Speak over yourself what God has said, not what the world has labeled. Filter your input. Music, conversations, media, they all reinforce identity. Choose what strengthens, not what steals. Act like it's already yours. Don't wait until you feel worthy. Walk as though you already are. Now, let's face the question everyone asks in silence. Why me? Why did certain doors close? Why did betrayal cut so deep? Why did loss leave scars? There's no easy answer, but there's a certain one: preparation. Think of David, anointed as king while still a shepherd boy. Years passed before he touched the throne. In those years, lions and bears prepared him to face Goliath. Isolation in the fields prepared him to handle leadership in the palace. Nothing was wasted. That's why your scars matter. They are proof you've been tested, and what's been tested can be trusted. And when you trust God with the unanswered why, you discover the what now. Instead of staying stuck in confusion, you step into clarity. You begin asking, what is this teaching me? How can I use this? Who will be helped by my story? That shift moves you from victim to vessel. Let's not overlook peace again. Peace is not fragile. It's not a candle the wind blows out. It's an anchor. It steadies you when storms rage. Philippians 4:7 promises, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Notice it guards. Peace is a defense, not just a comfort. So when the mind spirals with what ifs, peace says, even if delays come, I'm still secure. Even if people walk away, I'm still loved. Even if plans shift, I'm still guided. That's unshakable peace. Practical example. Imagine your finances don't improve overnight. Peace means you budget wisely without panicking. Imagine your health takes time to restore. Peace means you trust God's healing while doing your part. Imagine relationships don't reconcile as you hoped. Peace means you love without bitterness and release without hate. That kind of peace is priceless. Cycles break when you stop repeating the same reactions. Identity strengthens when you stop living by temporary labels, and peace grows when you stop negotiating with fear. This is where you stand now, not at the beginning of the end, but at the end of the beginning. The foundation has been laid. The structure is rising. And soon, the view from the top will make sense of every valley. The weight of yesterday is loosening, and the horizon of tomorrow is breaking open. Have you ever noticed how the hardest moments come right before the greatest shifts? It feels as if everything piles up at once. Unexpected bills, sudden conflicts, old insecurities knocking again. That pressure isn't random. Pressure always increases before breakthrough. Just like a seed must split before it sprouts, your life sometimes feels like it's breaking only because something new is about to push through. When you think about seeds, you realize they endure darkness before light. Buried, unseen, pressed by soil that looks like an ending, but it's actually the start of growth. That's why your hidden seasons matter. Even when nobody was applauding, even when no one saw the sacrifices, God saw. He was watering the soil you were buried in. John 12:24 says, "Unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." What felt like dying in your life, the dream that crumbled, the relationship that ended, the season that dried up, was really multiplication in disguise. This is the rhythm of transformation. Endings that look final but are only openings. You thought you lost, but you were planted. And being planted means being positioned. Think about your journey so far. How many times did you think, "This is the end," only to realize months later it was a doorway? Maybe you lost a job and found a calling. Maybe a heartbreak pushed you toward healing you never would have pursued otherwise. Maybe a failure taught you skills that now set you apart. That's not accident, that's design. Let's bring this closer to daily living. Pressure is information. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening?" start asking, "What is this shaping in me?" Stress often reveals where strength is forming. Conflict often reveals where courage is required. Delay often reveals where discipline is built. Joseph's prison season didn't delay his destiny, it trained him. David's wilderness years didn't block his crown, they prepared him. And your own waiting room isn't wasted time, it's refinement. Still, waiting is not easy. Waiting exposes impatience, doubt, and sometimes anger. But the Bible gives a promise in Isaiah 40:31. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Notice the progression: soaring, running, walking. Not every season is soaring. Sometimes it's steady walking, and that's still holy. Walking with God is not glamorous. It's showing up on ordinary Tuesdays, making choices in line with your values, honoring commitments when nobody's watching. That quiet consistency is what builds unshakable character, and when promotion comes, it lands on solid ground. Now let's talk about clarity. Clarity doesn't always arrive as a voice from heaven. More often, it shows up as a growing conviction in your spirit. That tug that says, "This isn't right anymore," or the peace that whispers, "This is the way." When you honor those nudges, you avoid detours. Sometimes clarity means closing doors before new ones open. That's hard because humans cling to the familiar, even when it hurts. But releasing what no longer aligns creates space for what does. God doesn't pour new wine into old wineskins for a reason they can't hold it. Your life has outgrown certain versions of you. Let them go. And while you release, remember this: you don't need to rush into every open door. Opportunities multiply when you move with discernment, not desperation. Proverbs 3-6 promises, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight." Straight doesn't always mean fast. It means clear, direct, purposeful. This is why peace must guide your decisions. Peace is God's compass. If you step into something and immediately lose peace, pay attention. It might look attractive, but if it costs your alignment, it's too expensive. Let me share a picture with you. Imagine your life as a river. The water flows naturally toward its destination. Rocks may block, storms may stir, but the river always finds its way. That's your calling. You don't have to force it. Flow with it, align with its current. Trust that the bends in the path still lead to the ocean. And don't forget gratitude. Gratitude shifts atmosphere faster than anything else. When you say, "Thank you," even for small blessings, you tune your heart to abundance. Gratitude is not denial of struggle, it's recognition of provision inside it. And what you recognize multiplies. Look back at the last year. Even in hardship, wasn't there always something? A friend who called, a door that opened, strength you didn't know you had. Those are not coincidences, they are evidence that God never left. So now, as you step forward, carry this truth. You were never buried to die, you were planted to rise. The soil that pressed you down is the same soil that's feeding your growth. Growth always comes with tension. It's the stretch between where you are and where you're going. That stretch is uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, but it is proof that expansion is happening. Think of a tree. Its roots dig deeper while its branches reach higher. Both movements downward and upward happen at once. If roots don't go deep, the tree topples. If branches don't reach, the tree never flourishes. Your life works the same way. The struggles that ground you and the dreams that pull you forward are happening simultaneously. shaping balance. You may wonder, why can't things just stabilize? Why can't everything finally feel easy? But easy rarely builds endurance. What builds endurance is tension, resistance, and learning how to walk with peace inside that pressure. Romans 5:3-4 puts it like this: suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. That chain isn't poetic, it's practical. Hope grows from tested character, and tested character comes from endured resistance. Here's the paradox. The very challenges you want to escape are the same ones equipping you for abundance. Without the dry seasons, you'd never appreciate the rain. Without the silence, you'd miss the value of a true word. Without delay, you'd never recognize the worth of timing. But let's be real, waiting is tiring. You've probably said to yourself, I've been patient long enough. Yet patience in God's timing is different from human patience. Human patience is tolerating frustration. Divine patience is trusting process. When you trust, you stop counting minutes and start recognizing preparation. Take David again. He was anointed as king long before he ever sat on the throne. Those years in between were not wasted, they were building his leadership muscle. Every lion, every bear, every confrontation shaped his ability to face giants and govern a nation. If he had skipped that waiting room, he wouldn't have had the wisdom to rule. Maybe your waiting room right now looks like underemployment, like quiet service, like unseen faithfulness. Don't despise it. It's the very place God strengthens what will soon be needed. And here's the secret. The waiting room is where intimacy grows. When nothing seems to move, you either sink into despair or lean into God. Those who lean in discover something precious, that His presence is enough even before the promise arrives. That's why Psalm 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." That's not theory. That's testimony. Let's turn this into practice. How do you sustain yourself when the answer hasn't come? Set daily anchors, a moment of prayer, a verse repeated, a song that lifts your spirit, anchors that steady you when emotions shift. Simplify goals. Instead of asking, "How will I change everything?" ask, "What one step today aligns with my calling?" Celebrate small confirmations. Don't wait for the final breakthrough to acknowledge progress. Every door cracked open is evidence of movement. Sometimes you'll notice God speaking through small, ordinary things. A word from a stranger, a passage that jumps off the page, a peace that settles suddenly. Don't dismiss these as coincidences. They are God's whispers reminding you that He hasn't forgotten. Your niche, too, becomes clearer in waiting. You see what you can't let go of, what keeps burning in your spirit even when results are slow. That persistence is not stubbornness, it's calling. And when calling is refined, opportunities align at the right time. But here's a warning. Distractions multiply during waiting. Not all opportunities are assignments. Some doors open only to detour you. Discernment is the shield. Ask, does this multiply peace? Does this expand purpose? Does this match the timing? If not, let it pass. Refusing wrong doors is as important as walking through the right ones. Think about Ruth. She lost her husband. Her future looked uncertain, yet she chose faithfulness over escape. That choice led her to Boaz, to restoration, to legacy. The waiting wasn't glamorous, but it was holy. It positioned her for what no human plan could design. You may feel like Ruth in her gleaning season, picking leftovers at the edge of someone else's field. But remember, those small, faithful steps placed her exactly where blessing would find her. The same is true for you. So lift your head. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not late. You are exactly where God can reach you. The waiting isn't punishment, it's preparation for promises too large to rush. Your patience today is proof you're carrying something worth waiting for. There are seasons when life feels like a battlefield you didn't sign up for. You wake up, and before you even take a step, the weight of worry presses in. It might be finances, health, relationships, or even just the silent ache of uncertainty. These battles drain your energy and test your faith, but they are not random. They reveal who you truly are when comfort is stripped away. The world teaches you to fight back with force, argue harder, push further, hustle longer. But spiritual battles don't yield to human strength. They respond to alignment. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. That means your true enemy isn't people, deadlines, or circumstances. It's deeper, and so is your weapon. Your greatest weapon is peace anchored in faith. Not the peace that comes when everything looks stable, but the peace that holds you steady when storms rage. This peace makes no sense to outsiders, but it confuses your opposition and strengthens your spirit. Imagine standing calmly in the middle of chaos, not because you're ignoring it, but because you know who holds you. Look back at Daniel in the lion's den. He wasn't rescued from entering the den, he was sustained inside it. His peace in prayer before the trial became his shield during it. That's how faith works. You don't escape every storm. You are carried through them, and they cannot consume you. This truth shapes how you view your niche as well. Your calling is not just about skill, it's about authority. The battles you've endured give you authority to speak, to guide, to build in ways others cannot. Think about it. Someone who has never faced loss cannot comfort the grieving like you can. Someone who has never been broke cannot teach financial integrity with the same weight. Your scars give you credibility, and credibility gives you influence. But here's the challenge: authority without humility becomes arrogance. That's why God allows certain battles to keep us grounded, not to crush us, but to anchor us. When you realize you can't win on your own, you lean on Him, and that posture keeps pride from corrupting your purpose. There's another layer here: resilience. Resilience isn't pretending everything is fine, it's choosing to keep moving even when it isn't. Some days resilience looks like bold faith, other days it's simply refusing to quit. That refusal alone is powerful. The enemy's plan is often not to destroy you outright, but to wear you down until you stop trying. But every step you take in faith, even trembling ones, defies that plan. Think of Elijah under the broom tree, exhausted, asking God to end his life. He thought his mission was over, but God gave him rest, food, and strength for the journey ahead. Sometimes resilience starts with something as simple as rest. You don't have to perform constantly. Even heroes of faith needed recovery. So, what does this look like in your everyday life? It means choosing prayer over panic when anxiety rises. It means choosing forgiveness over bitterness when betrayal cuts deep. It means choosing generosity over fear when scarcity tempts you to hoard. Each choice is a declaration: I trust God's plan more than my fear. And gradually, those small declarations build momentum. Fear loses ground, faith takes root, and peace becomes the default setting instead of panic. Let's not forget, victory is not only about what you overcome, it's also about what you inherit. Romans 8:17 says, "Now if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ." That means your future isn't just survival, it's inheritance. Blessings, opportunities, and legacy are part of your destiny. But inheritance requires maturity. A child cannot steward an estate. Likewise, you cannot step into overflow until character matches calling. That's why the battles are shaping you. They are not delays, they are development. Think of Joseph again, raised to rule after years of refining. Think of Moses, shaped in deserts before leading a nation. Think of Esther, hidden before being crowned. Their battles weren't obstacles, they were classrooms. Yours are too. So don't despise the lessons. Don't curse the resistance. Don't call yourself weak for being tested. Each moment you choose faith over fear, you're proving that storms cannot stop what God has spoken over your life. Even when you feel weary, remind yourself, battles don't last forever, but their lessons do. And the lessons you carry are the very keys that open doors for others. Your scars are not proof of defeat, they are proof you were never conquered. There's something remarkable about how life teaches through contrasts. You know joy because you've tasted sorrow. You understand peace because you've lived through chaos. You appreciate light because you've sat in darkness. Without contrast, meaning fades. The very things you wished away, struggles, losses, detours, are what gave depth to your soul. Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." Life's rhythm is seasonal. Some seasons prune, others plant, and still others harvest. But all are necessary. You can't skip pruning and expect healthy fruit. You can't demand harvest if planting never happened. When you embrace every season as sacred, You stop fighting time and start flowing with it. Take pruning, for example. It hurts to let go. Whether it's people, habits, or dreams that no longer serve you, pruning feels like loss. But in truth, pruning is space-making. A vine grows wild without trimming, but trimmed branches produce sweeter grapes. In the same way, God trims your life not to punish, but to prepare. Planting, too, takes trust. Seeds buried in soil disappear for a time. You water, wait, and wonder if anything is happening beneath the surface. But roots grow long before fruit shows. The same is true of your prayers, your work, your faith. Just because results aren't visible doesn't mean growth isn't happening. And then comes harvest. But notice harvest isn't automatic. It requires discernment. If you gather too early, the fruit isn't ready. If you wait too long, it rots. That's why timing matters. God knows when your life is ripe for opportunity, relationship, provision. The challenge is resisting impatience long enough to let fruit mature. Think of Sarah and Abraham. God promised a child, but waiting stretched their faith. In their impatience, they tried to force the promise through Hagar, and the result was conflict. Yet even in their missteps, God's faithfulness remained. At the right time, Isaac was born. The lesson? Human shortcuts can't produce divine outcomes. Patience preserves the purity of the promise. So how do you live faithfully in seasons? First, by refusing to compare your timeline to others. Their harvest is not your harvest. Their pruning is not your pruning. Their planting doesn't mirror your planting. Life is not a competition, it's a calling. When you fix your eyes on your lane, peace replaces jealousy. Second, by practicing presence. Too often, we resist the present because we're obsessed with the future. But the present is the only place you can plant, the only place you can grow, the only place you can obey. Tomorrow is just potential. Today is stewardship. And third, by holding gratitude in all stages. Gratitude during pruning says, "Thank you for removing what I couldn't." Gratitude during planting says, "Thank you for unseen roots." Gratitude during harvest says, "Thank you for overflow." Gratitude keeps your heart aligned when circumstances shift. Let's talk about your niche in seasons. Some of you are in hidden seasons where your work doesn't seem noticed, but obscurity doesn't mean insignificance. Think of David writing psalms alone in fields. Think of Jesus living 30 quiet years before 3 years of ministry. Hiddenness is not wasted, it's incubation. If you're in a hidden season, invest deeply in preparation. Learn skills, build habits, strengthen your spirit. Because when the season shifts, the foundation you've built in silence will support the weight of visibility. If you're in a planting season, resist discouragement. Keep sowing kindness, excellence, creativity, faith. Seeds look small, but forests are hidden inside them. Don't despise small beginnings. If you're in harvest, stay humble. Prosperity without humility turns blessing into pride. Remember, the harvest is not just for you, it's meant to feed others. Sharing multiplies abundance. Hoarding chokes it. Here's a perspective shift. Seasons aren't enemies, they're teachers. Each season carries wisdom you'll need later. What you learn now might be the very key someone else needs tomorrow. That's why testimony matters. When you speak of what God carried you through, you plant hope in others. Consider your own story. Look back a year, 5 years, 10 years. Would the version of you then believe you'd survive what you've endured? Probably not. Yet here you are. Stronger, wiser, maybe even softer in heart because the seasons taught you empathy. And here's the beautiful irony. While you thought you were waiting for breakthrough, breakthrough was shaping you. You don't just enter new seasons, they enter you. They transform how you see, think, and live. The time you thought was wasted was actually weaving roots. Your life is proof that no season is ever wasted. There are moments in life when silence becomes the loudest teacher. Not silence because nothing is happening, but silence because God is working behind the curtain. You've prayed, you've cried, you've waited, and the heavens feel still. That silence can feel like rejection, but it's often strategy. Think about a seed again. When it's in the soil, it doesn't make noise. Roots spread quietly, invisibly. No one applauds that stage, no one even notices it. Yet without it, there's no tree, no fruit, no shade. The silent seasons of your life are like that. They're where roots are growing. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness doesn't mean inactivity, it means trust. It's surrendering the need to see progress with your eyes and learning to sense it with your spirit. Many of us, though, panic in silence. We think, nothing's happening, I need to fix this. And so we scramble, grasping for control, often making things worse. But stillness is not the absence of progress, it's the preparation for it. Consider Joseph again, sitting in prison for years after being betrayed. To outsiders, it looked like stagnation. But God was aligning circumstances, Pharaoh's dreams, the famine, the need for leadership that would make Joseph's gift essential. In one day, he went from forgotten prisoner to ruler of Egypt. Silence wasn't wasted, it was set up. Maybe your silence right now is set up too. Perhaps the quiet is where God is orchestrating connections, opening unseen doors, or reshaping your heart to handle blessings without breaking under them. Here's something crucial: silence also tests voice. In the quiet, whose words echo in your mind? Fear, doubt, or faith? That inner dialogue becomes the steering wheel of your life. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us, "The tongue has the power of life and death." What you rehearse in silence, you eventually live out loud. So shift the script. Instead of saying, "Nothing is changing," declare, "God is working even now." Instead of thinking, "I've been overlooked," remind yourself, "I'm being prepared." Silence becomes sacred when filled with faith. Let's bring this closer to your niche and purpose. Every field of influence has its quiet stage. Authors draft chapters no one reads. Musicians rehearse for hours before anyone hears a note. Entrepreneurs spend years testing ideas before the market notices. That obscurity, that hidden grind, is where excellence is born. Without it, visibility collapses under pressure. Think of Jesus again. 30 years of silence before 3 years of impact. The hidden years weren't wasted, they were foundation. His niche, his voice, his authority, all of it was forged in obscurity. When the time came, his impact couldn't be ignored. So what does silence ask of you? 3 things. First, patience. Silence stretches time. You want the quick answer, but silence teaches endurance. Endurance prepares you to handle permanence. Second, focus. When noise disappears, you see what matters. Silence filters distractions. Third, trust. Silence forces surrender. You can't manipulate timing, so you learn to lean into God's design. There's also beauty in silence if you allow it. It's in silence you hear whispers you'd miss in noise. Guidance often arrives as a nudge, not a shout. Clarity comes in reflection, not rush. Peace fills you when you stop wrestling for control. And sometimes silence is God's protection. Doors close quietly. People drift away without explanation. Opportunities fade without reason. At the time, you feel abandoned. Later, you realize those silent exits saved you from detours that would have derailed your calling. Isaiah 30:15 says, "In quietness and trust is your strength." Notice that strength is found not in noise, but in quietness. The world celebrates hustle, constant movement, endless output. But heaven celebrates those who know how to pause, to listen, to wait. You may be in a season right now where God is silent. If so, don't mistake silence for absence. Don't confuse delay with denial. Don't interpret stillness as abandonment. The seed is still alive. The roots are still spreading. The story is still unfolding. Your silence is not empty, it's loaded with unseen growth. Sometimes life feels like a series of closed doors. You knock, you try, you wait, and the answer is silence or rejection. That sting of not yet can weigh heavily on the heart. But here's the truth. Closed doors are not always punishment. Often, they are redirection. Revelation 3-7 reminds us, "What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open." Closed doors may frustrate you now, but they are part of God's protection plan. Think back on your own life, doors you once wanted so badly, relationships you thought would last, opportunities you believed were perfect. Had those doors stayed open, they might have broken you. The difficulty is that closed doors rarely come with explanations. You just see it shut. You don't see the storm behind it, the delay ahead of it, or the preparation still needed for it. And so, frustration creeps in. But what feels like rejection is often preservation. Joseph again is a striking example. He could have despised the closed door when he was sold into slavery or thrown into prison, yet those detours were exactly what positioned him for Pharaoh's court. If the first doors had opened easily, the throne would have been out of reach. Think about your niche, your area of calling. Every closed door shapes clarity. You realize not just where you are meant to go, but also where you are not. The pruning of opportunities builds focus. Without it, you would scatter energy in places never designed for you. Closed doors also refine desire. They test, do you want the blessing itself, or do you want God's will? When you desire His will more than your plan, you're ready to steward bigger opportunities. Desire purified by delay becomes devotion, not obsession. But what do you do while waiting outside a closed door? First, resist bitterness. It's easy to let disappointment harden your heart, but bitterness blinds you to new doors God is opening. Keep your spirit tender. Second, stay faithful where you are. The next door often opens when you steward the hallway well. David didn't complain about sheep fields. He sang psalms there. Ruth didn't despise gleaning in fields. She did it with integrity. Both were noticed and lifted in due time. Third, practice discernment. Not every door that opens is meant to be entered. Some are distractions disguised as opportunities. Test them. Does this align with peace? Does it magnify purpose? Does it reflect God's timing? If not, walk away. One of the hardest lessons is that God's timing is never rushed by impatience. Imagine receiving a blessing too early, wealth without wisdom, influence without humility, responsibility without maturity. It would collapse under its own weight. That's why some doors remain shut until character catches up. Isaiah 22:22 paints the image clearly. I will place on his shoulder the key to the house of David. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. Your life is guided by a key holder greater than you, and when he decides the door is ready, nothing, no doubt, no enemy, no circumstance can block it. Here's a perspective shift. Closed doors invite creativity. When one path shuts, it forces you to look for another. That process awakens resilience, innovation, even hidden gifts. What felt like an ending often becomes the birthplace of something entirely new. Think of the early church in Acts. Persecution closed the door of comfort in Jerusalem, scattering believers, but that scattering spread the gospel to the nations. What looked like disaster became destiny. Maybe your current closed door is an invitation to widen your vision, to discover new ways of walking in your calling, to stop confining yourself to one expectation and start trusting God's imagination. Remember this, when the right door opens, it will not require striving, manipulation, or begging. It will swing wide with confirmation. Your job is to stay ready, praying, learning, serving, so when it opens, you can walk through with confidence. And here's the beauty. Even in hallways, God provides light. He doesn't leave you wandering blind. Guidance comes step by step, often just enough for today. That's why Psalm 119-105 says, "Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path." Notice it says lamp, not floodlight. A lamp shows just enough for the next step, teaching trust for the journey. So, if you're standing before a closed door, don't despair. Pause, breathe. Remember, rejection here may mean redirection there. Delay here may mean preparation elsewhere. The right door is coming, and when it opens, you'll understand why every other one had to close. There's a deep truth we often overlook. Breakthrough rarely comes in the way we imagine. We picture lightning from the sky, an instant miracle, a sudden reversal. And sometimes, yes, God moves that way, but more often, breakthrough is gradual like the dawn. At first, the horizon is still dark, then slowly the sky softens, light spreads, and before you realize it, the sun is fully risen. Isaiah 60:1 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Notice the wording, rises. It doesn't crash down, it rises. That's how transformation often unfolds in our lives. Step by step, moment by moment, light increases until you look around and realize you've stepped into a new season. The challenge is patience during that rise, because before dawn, it's darkest. Before the breakthrough, opposition often intensifies. You may have noticed this just when you're close to change, the pressure multiplies. That's not coincidence. It's resistance at the threshold. Think of Israel at the Red Sea. Freedom was so near, yet they faced an impossible barrier. Behind them, Pharaoh's army. Before them, waves too high to cross. That moment looked like the end, but it was really the setup for one of the greatest breakthroughs in Scripture. The sea parted, not before they were trapped, but exactly when no other option remained. Maybe you're standing at a Red Sea moment. You've come too far to turn back, but the future looks blocked. Don't lose heart. Seas part when obedience meets faith. The obstacle in front of you may become the stage where God displays His power. This is where your niche, the area God shaped you for, becomes vital. Breakthrough isn't random. It aligns with identity. When you live outside of who you are, breakthroughs feel elusive. But when you step fully into your calling, doors open, connections appear, provision flows. It's not magic, it's alignment. Think of Peter. His niche was fishing, yet when Jesus told him to cast his net differently, the breakthrough came. Same boat, same waters, same man, but obedience to divine instruction shifted everything. That's how close breakthrough can be. It's not always about changing location. Sometimes it's about changing direction under God's voice. Here's a practical layer. Many people think breakthrough is about external change, more money, better job, new relationship. And yes, those can be part of it. But real breakthrough begins internally. Fear breaks, doubt lifts, clarity comes. Then, external shifts follow. Proverbs 23:7 says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." When the inner world shifts, the outer world aligns. This is why battles of the mind are so fierce before breakthrough. The enemy wants you paralyzed with lies. You're not enough. It won't happen. It's too late. But those lies crumble when confronted with truth. Romans 12:2 reminds us to be transformed by renewing the mind. When your thoughts match God's promises, you step into freedom. Breakthrough also demands letting go of the old. You can't carry old bitterness into new peace. You can't drag yesterday's fears into tomorrow's faith. Breakthrough requires shedding. Like Israel leaving Egypt, you can't pack slavery mentality into a promised land. Ask yourself, what am I still holding that doesn't fit where I'm going? It may be anger, comparison, self-doubt, or even unhealthy relationships. Breakthrough often comes the moment you release what weighs you down. And let's remember, breakthrough is not just personal, it's generational. Your victory opens paths for those after you. Think of Abraham. His faith became a covenant blessing not only for him but for his descendants. Your obedience today may be the very key unlocking future abundance for your children, your community, your lineage. Maybe this is why the waiting feels so heavy. Because what you're carrying isn't only for you, it's legacy. So when it feels like the night is endless, remind yourself dawn is scheduled, light is already rising, and your breakthrough may be closer than you think. There comes a time in every journey when you look back and realize the path you walked was never random. Every detour, every delay, every tear had purpose. It wasn't always visible while you were in the middle of it, but when you step a little higher, the view shifts. What once felt like chaos begins to look like design. Jeremiah 29:11 is one of the most quoted verses, and for good reason. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Notice that the verse doesn't say you will know the plan. It says God knows. Our challenge isn't to figure out every detail, it's to trust the one who already holds it. Think of your life as a tapestry. Up close, you only see tangled threads, knots, and messy crossings. But from above, the design is beautiful. The chaos you see today is only one side of the weave. God sees the full picture, but trusting that isn't always easy. You've likely had nights of doubt where you wondered, did I hear God right? Did I miss something? Is this all for nothing? Those questions are normal. Even the greatest people in Scripture wrestled with them. Think of Gideon, hiding in a winepress, questioning why all the hardship had come if God was truly with him. And yet, God called him mighty warrior, even in his doubt. Your doubts don't disqualify you. They often become the soil where deeper faith grows. Because faith isn't the absence of questions, it's choosing to trust in the middle of them. Now, let's connect this to your niche, your unique calling. Often, the areas where you've suffered most become the very areas where you are called to serve. Pain gives you compassion, and compassion gives you power. Someone else may have the same skill set as you, but they don't have your scars, and your scars give you a voice that reaches places talent alone cannot. Think of Paul. His persecutions and imprisonments could have silenced him. Instead, they became the stage for letters that still shape faith centuries later. What seemed like setbacks were actually platforms. Your life holds that same paradox. What hurt you most may yet help the most people through you. But here's the challenge. We often resist the very path that forms us. We want quick promotion without slow shaping. We want success without scars. Yet it's the fire that refines. Gold doesn't shine until heat burns away what doesn't belong. The same is true of you. So how do you live with trust when the plan is unclear? 3 truths can anchor you. First, remember provision comes one step at a time. God rarely reveals the whole map. He gives just enough light for today. This keeps us close to Him, dependent on His voice. Second, practice gratitude in the in-between. Gratitude doesn't always change circumstances, but it changes perspective. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present. And perspective is often what carries you until provision arrives. Third, surround yourself with voices of faith. Who you listen to matters. Some voices fuel doubt, others fuel courage. Choose the ones that remind you of God's faithfulness when your own memory grows weak. Consider Ruth again. She didn't see the full plan when she followed Naomi. She simply said, "Where you go, I will go." That simple step led her to fields of provision, to Boaz, and to her place in the lineage of Christ. She didn't know the plan, she just trusted the next step. Maybe that's where you are. Maybe you don't need the 10-year plan right now. Maybe you just need to say yes to the next act of obedience in front of you. Because the truth is, you are not lost, you are led. And every step, even the painful ones, is guiding you closer to the life prepared for you. Every heart longs for peace, but too often we confuse peace with the absence of problems. True peace isn't the elimination of storms, it's the presence of calm within them. Jesus never promised life without trouble. In fact, He said in John 16:33, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." That means peace is not something you chase in circumstances, it's something you cultivate in trust. Think about the disciples in the boat when the storm raged. Waves crashed, winds howled, panic filled their lungs. Yet Jesus slept. Why? Because His peace was anchored in assurance, not conditions. He knew storms could roar, but they couldn't sink a boat carrying the presence of God. That same presence is with you. The storms you face may be fierce, but they don't have authority to drown you. Peace comes when you stop magnifying the storm and start magnifying the one who calms it. But how do you hold peace practically? It begins with guarding your inner world. The noise around you is constant news headlines, social media, endless demands. If you allow all of it in unchecked, your soul fractures under the weight. Philippians 4-7 promises, "The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." That word guard paints the picture of a soldier standing watch. Peace is not passive, it is protection. To activate that guard, you must feed your spirit with truth more than you feed your fear with noise. What are you listening to daily? What words do you repeat? Peace grows where faith is watered. Here's another key: forgiveness. Unforgiveness is a thief of peace. You can't carry grudges and expect rest. Bitterness chains you to the past. Forgiveness doesn't excuse what was done, it releases you from its hold. When you forgive, you're not declaring them right, you're declaring yourself free. Contentment also plays a role. Paul said in Philippians 4:11, "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances." Contentment isn't settling for less, it's refusing to let lack steal joy. It's saying, even here, even now, I choose gratitude. That choice is powerful. Gratitude shifts energy, and energy shapes atmosphere. Let's apply this to your niche. Whatever sphere you're called to: business, creativity, ministry, peace becomes your competitive advantage. In a frantic world, people crave calm. They trust leaders who carry steady presence. If your voice, your work, your spirit radiates peace, you become a refuge in chaos. That attracts opportunity and influence more than striving ever could. Think of Daniel again, living in Babylon, surrounded by pressure, yet his composure set him apart. Kings trusted him not only for wisdom, but for steadiness. That steadiness positioned him for authority. Your peace will position you too. Peace also empowers clarity. When you're frantic, decisions scatter. When you're calm, vision sharpens. And often the difference between missing opportunity and seizing it is simply whether you chose panic or peace in the moment. But peace isn't built overnight. It's cultivated daily through choices. Choices to pause before reacting. Choices to pray before deciding. Choices to breathe before speaking. Little by little, those choices train your spirit to rest even when storms rage. Remember Elijah? He expected God in the wind, the earthquake, the fire, but the Lord came in a gentle whisper. Peace is that whisper. It may not shake the room, but it shifts the soul. And sometimes, peace looks like boundaries. Saying no when your spirit says no, protecting your time, honoring your body with rest, trusting that stepping back doesn't mean falling behind. It means aligning with rhythm instead of running yourself into collapse. The irony is that peace often feels like weakness to the world, but in truth, it is strength. It takes far more courage to remain calm than to lash out, more faith to rest than to strive, more wisdom to wait than to force. So today, as you listen to these words, breathe deeply. Let go of the weight that doesn't belong to you. Release the grudges, the comparisons, the endless striving. Peace is not something distant, it's already yours. And once you choose it, you carry a presence that no storm can steal. One of the greatest lies whispered into weary hearts is this: you are alone. It creeps in late at night, when prayers feel unanswered and silence lingers. Loneliness doesn't always come from the absence of people. It comes when you feel unseen, unheard, and misunderstood. But here's the truth: you are never truly alone. Psalm 34-18 reminds us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Even when human comfort fails, divine presence surrounds you. It doesn't always announce itself with fireworks, it shows up in subtle ways. A moment of unexpected peace, a stranger's kind word, strength you didn't think you had. Think of Hagar in the wilderness, cast out, rejected, convinced she and her child would die. But there, in her despair, God revealed himself as El Roi, the God who sees me. That name is still true today. When you feel invisible, God sees. When you feel forgotten, he remembers. When you feel discarded, he restores. Loneliness, though, has a hidden gift. It strips away noise and shows you what's real. In the silence of solitude, you discover strength you didn't know existed. It's in those moments that calling often becomes clearest. Moses was alone in the desert when he encountered the burning bush. Jacob was alone at night when he wrestled with God and walked away with a new name. Solitude births encounters, but loneliness also tests you. It tempts you to settle for anything just to fill the emptiness. Wrong relationships, shallow distractions, empty pursuits. Yet if you resist, that same loneliness transforms into intimacy with God. What feels like isolation is often incubation. Here's the connection to your niche. When you learn to walk confidently, even in solitude, your influence becomes unshakable. You're no longer driven by the need for approval. You're anchored in purpose. Approval may come, rejection may come, but neither shifts your foundation. And people notice that. True leaders aren't those who need applause to keep moving. They're those who keep moving because the mission burns too deeply to stop. It's not wrong to crave community. We were created for connection. Even Jesus surrounded himself with friends. But notice, he didn't depend on them for identity. His alone time with the Father fueled his mission. Community supported it, but solitude sustained it. So, what do you do when loneliness presses in? First, acknowledge it honestly. Pretending you're fine doesn't heal the ache. Bring it to God raw and unfiltered. Prayer isn't performance, it's conversation. Second, shift the focus outward. Loneliness shrinks when you serve. Sometimes the very comfort you long for arrives when you extend it to others. Third, remind yourself of truth daily. Write it down, speak it out loud. I am seen, I am loved, I am chosen. These aren't affirmations of wishful thinking, they're declarations of identity. Elijah sat under the broom tree wishing for death, believing he was alone, yet God revealed there were thousands who hadn't bowed to Baal. What Elijah thought was isolation was actually distorted perception. You too may feel like no one understands, but there are more walking a similar path than you realize. And in this digital age, remember, connection is possible even in unexpected places. Your story, your voice, your authenticity when shared can become the very bridge someone else needs. Loneliness transforms when you recognize that your experience can heal others who feel the same. So when the whisper says, "You are alone," answer it boldly, "I am never alone." Because even in the wilderness, there is a presence walking right beside you. There's a weight that comes with carrying dreams. Dreams are beautiful, they inspire, motivate, and give direction. But they can also feel heavy when progress seems slow, when the path twists longer than expected, when others around you seem to race ahead while you still wait. Proverbs 13:12 says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life." Waiting for dreams can wear the soul down. You pray, you plan, you push forward, but the dream still feels distant. And in those moments, discouragement whispers, maybe it will never happen. But here's something important. Dreams that come from God are never wasted. They may not unfold in the way you imagined, but they will unfold. The detours don't cancel them, they refine them. The delays don't deny them, they prepare you to handle them. Think about Joseph again. His dreams as a young man seemed outrageous, his family bowing before him. Yet instead of immediate fulfillment, his path led through betrayal, slavery, and prison. To an outside eye, the dream looked dead, but each step was actually guiding him toward fulfillment. By the time his dream came true, he wasn't just exalted, he was prepared to save nations. Your dream may feel buried, but buried things aren't always lost. Sometimes they are planted. Seeds disappear into darkness before they sprout. In the same way, your dream may be underground, unseen, but roots are forming, and when it emerges, it will be stronger than if it had bloomed prematurely. But dreams don't grow without responsibility. You can't just wish them into existence. Faith and action must walk together. James 2:17 says, "Faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." If you believe God has given you a vision, your part is to cultivate it, learn, practice, prepare, build. When faith meets discipline, dreams mature into reality. This also connects directly to your niche. Your calling is not just about personal satisfaction, it's about service. Dreams become heavy when you carry them only for yourself. But when you shift perspective and see your dream as a gift meant to bless others, the weight transforms into purpose. Suddenly, the struggle is worth it because it's not just about you, it's about the lives impacted through you. But be mindful of dream thieves. Comparison is one of the worst. Looking at someone else's highlight reel while doubting your behind-the-scenes journey can suffocate your faith. Their dream is theirs. Yours is uniquely shaped for you. God doesn't need duplicates. He delights in originals. Another thief is fear. Fear says, "What if I fail?" But the real question is, what if you don't try? Failure isn't final. Each attempt is training ground. Each mistake is material for growth. Even setbacks can become stepping stones when surrendered to God. And then there's distraction. Endless scrolling, constant noise, chasing things that look shiny but don't align with your calling. Distraction is often more dangerous than outright failure because it wastes time quietly. Guard your focus like a treasure. Think of Nehemiah rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem. His enemies tried to lure him away with distractions, but his answer was firm. "I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down." That's the mindset needed for your dream. Stay on the wall. Don't come down for pettiness, for fear, for comparison. Stay focused until the vision is complete. And when discouragement strikes, remind yourself, delay is not denial. God is not slow in keeping promises. He is precise. He knows the season when your dream will flourish best. So don't give up on what He placed in you. Because the dream is still alive, even if it's growing underground. Every step of faith eventually leads you into unfamiliar territory. It's that moment when the familiar no longer fits, but the future hasn't yet unfolded. Some call it transition, others call it testing. but we all feel it, the tension of being between what was and what will be. Transitions are unsettling because they strip away comfort. The patterns that once worked stop producing. The doors that once opened easily now remain closed. You sense movement, but you can't yet see the destination. That space feels risky, but it's also sacred. It's where you learn to depend on guidance instead of predictability. Look at Abraham. God told him in Genesis 12:1, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." Notice, Abraham wasn't given a map, he was given a direction. The promise came without coordinates. That's what faith looks like. It's walking step by step, trusting the voice more than the visible. This is where many give up, because transition feels like loss. You've left behind what was, but you don't yet hold what is coming. That in-between is where doubt screams loudest, but it's also where growth accelerates. Caterpillars don't transform into butterflies overnight. They enter a cocoon, a place of stillness, darkness, waiting. The cocoon feels like confinement, but inside, transformation is taking place. Maybe your life right now feels like that cocoon. Limited, quiet, uncertain. Yet what looks like restriction is actually recreation. Don't despise the cocoon, it's where wings form. Transitions also demand discernment. Not every opportunity in this season is meant for you. Some are detours disguised as blessings. You must ask, does this align with my purpose? Does this strengthen my niche? Does this expand peace? If the answer is no, let it go. Every yes costs energy, and in transition, energy is precious. But here's the beauty. God never leads you into transition without also supplying provision. Think of Israel in the wilderness. Manna fell daily, water flowed from rocks, guidance came through cloud and fire. It wasn't abundance yet, but it was enough. That's how God works in transitions. He sustains you, not with overflow yet, but with daily bread, enough to remind you He hasn't forgotten. This daily provision teaches humility. You learn to lean, you learn to pray not just for tomorrow, but for today, and in doing so, your relationship with God deepens. Your niche may feel unstable in this stage too. Maybe you're shifting careers, refining skills, or realigning goals. That instability can be frightening, but it's also revealing. It shows you what part of your calling is unshakable and what part was just circumstance. Purpose itself doesn't waver. The methods may change, but the mission remains. Think of David. He was first a shepherd, then a warrior, then a king. His role shifted, but his heart for leadership and worship never changed. Transitions may alter your role, but not your essence. Who you are in God stays consistent even when assignments shift. Practically, how do you walk through transition? First, hold your plans lightly. Write them, but with open hands. Allow God to edit freely. Second, cultivate patience. The pace may feel slower than you want, but slow doesn't mean stagnant. Roots often deepen in unseen ways before fruit appears. Third, strengthen your faith community. In transitions, voices of encouragement are vital. Isolation makes doubts louder. Community keeps hope alive. And finally, practice gratitude even here. Gratitude keeps your spirit soft and your perspective clear. Thank Him for the manna, even as you wait for the promised land. It's easy to fear transition, but remember, every transformation requires it. You cannot become who you are called to be while staying who you were. The unknown you fear today may be the very place where destiny finally takes shape. Every person carries battles no one else sees. Outwardly, you may look composed, but inside, the weight of invisible struggles presses hard. These unseen battles are often the most exhausting because you fight them silently. Yet they are also the very ground where God does His deepest work. Paul speaks of this tension in 2 Corinthians 4:16-17. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Notice renewal happens inwardly even when outward life feels pressed. The inner work matters most. Invisible battles are not signs of weakness. They are invitations into intimacy. When no one else understands, God becomes your confidant. When others can't see the fight, He strengthens you in secret. That's why Jesus taught in Matthew 6:6 to pray in secret, because the unseen place is where the Father meets you. But fighting inward battles requires honesty. Too often we mask pain with productivity, burying wounds under busyness. We pretend we're fine because the world rewards appearance. Yet ignoring wounds doesn't heal them, it deepens them. Healing begins when you bring the hidden to light, not necessarily to everyone, but to God. David modeled this well. His psalms are full of raw confessions, fear, anger, despair, longing, yet every psalm eventually turned toward hope. That's the rhythm: honesty before God, followed by anchoring in His promises. Your prayers can be the same, unfiltered, unedited, real. Invisible battles also reveal where your trust lies. It's easy to trust when outcomes are visible, but when nothing seems to change, where do you lean? Proverbs 3-5 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding." Understanding often fails in hidden struggles, but trust sustains. Let's connect this to your niche. Often, the areas where you've been tested most fiercely become the places where you carry greatest authority. Maybe your hidden battle was financial strain, now you carry wisdom about stewardship. Maybe it was anxiety, now you carry compassion to guide others toward peace. Authority is born in authenticity. The credibility to speak into lives often comes from the scars of your own. Still, invisible battles require care. Don't try to fight them alone. Even Jesus, in Gethsemane, asked His disciples to keep watch with Him. While they failed, the act itself shows a truth: you are not meant to carry everything by yourself. Trusted voices, wise counsel, community, they matter. And don't underestimate rest. Some battles feel heavier simply because you are drained. Elijah wanted to quit under the broom tree, but what did God give him? Rest and food. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is sleep, eat well, and allow your body to recover. Spirit, mind, and body are all connected. Remember, unseen battles are not eternal. They may shape you, but they do not define you. They may bruise, but they cannot break what God has secured. Romans 8:37 declares, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." So when you feel weary, when the fight seems endless, lift your head. Even if no one else knows the depth of your struggle, heaven sees, and heaven strengthens. Your silent battles may be invisible to others, but they are visible to God, and in His sight, you are never fighting alone. Every story has a turning point, the moment where everything shifts. For so long, it may have felt like you were wandering in circles, carrying battles, waiting in silence, or standing before closed doors. Yet even in those seasons, something was happening beneath the surface. And now, you stand at the threshold of change. The truth is this: nothing you've endured has been wasted. Every sleepless night, every quiet tear, every unseen act of faith has been shaping you for this moment. Romans 8:28 declares, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Not some things, all things. That means even the mistakes, even the losses, even the delays are woven into a greater plan. But stepping into this new chapter requires readiness. Breakthrough is not just about receiving, it's about becoming. When blessings arrive, they demand stewardship. When doors open, they require courage. When abundance flows, it calls for generosity. This is why the refining process mattered. It prepared you not just to hold blessings, but to multiply them. Think of Joshua leading Israel into the promised land. The wilderness shaped them, taught them dependence, and trained them for obedience. The land was ready, but the people had to be ready too. In the same way, what's ahead of you is not only prepared, you are being prepared for it. And this is where faith turns into action. It's no longer just about waiting, it's about walking. Deuteronomy 1-6 captures this moment. You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance. There comes a time when enough waiting has passed, when the signal shifts and the command is to move forward. That time is now. So what does forward look like? It looks like praying boldly again, even after disappointment. It looks like stepping into opportunities without fear of failure. It looks like living generously, because you know provision flows from God, not scarcity. It also means embracing your niche fully. Stop downplaying your calling or apologizing for your gifts. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your authenticity. You were set apart for a reason. Your voice carries weight, your story carries power, and your life carries light. Don't be surprised when others notice the change in you. Peace where there used to be panic, confidence where there used to be fear, clarity where there used to be confusion. That transformation will speak louder than words. It will testify that God's hand is on you. And as blessings unfold, remember to remain anchored. Prosperity without humility turns to pride, but prosperity with gratitude becomes a river of blessing. Keep gratitude at the center. Thank Him for the small and the great, for the seen and the unseen. Gratitude keeps your spirit open to even more. Finally, let's return to where this journey began. In part 1, we spoke of oversubscription, about how many chase without ever finding. But here, at the close, we see the other side. You are no longer striving endlessly. You are stepping into overflow. This isn't oversubscription, it's divine provision. The season of scarcity has ended. The weight of wandering has lifted. What you prayed for, waited for, and sometimes doubted would ever come, it's arriving. And when it does, you will know with certainty. It wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't random. It was God's faithfulness all along. Your waiting is over. Your breakthrough is here.